Okay. Good morning, council and special guests from the Foothills School Division. I'd like to open this meeting with the land acknowledgement that we would like to acknowledge the traditional territories of the peoples of Treaty 7, a region in southern Alberta, and the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. And I would like to call this meeting to order. The annual meeting between the Town of High River and the Foothills School Division. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please, from Councillor Walsh?
I'll give you that motion, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. All in favor? Oh, we can't see me. Okay. All right, and now I guess we move into the business, which is potential developments from the Foothills School Division. And I think we're going to have an update today. Is that correct?
Hi, good morning. I'm Board Chair Teresa Laton, and just introduce myself, and I'm wondering if maybe we could take a minute to introduce each other. There's some new faces here on council that we don't know, and there's some new board members that we'd love to introduce to you. Would that be all right if we took a moment to do that?
Yes, please.
All right. I guess if we could start by Drew and then just move around our board room here, that would be helpful.
Please go ahead.
Drew Chipman, I'm the Assistant Superintendent, Corporate Services.
Morning, I'm Jack Molyneux. I'm Ward 1. I represent the High Country with Turner Valley, Longview, Black Diamond.
Hello, Lisa Penzo, and I'm Ward 4, which is Okotoks.
Morning, I'm Chris Possessi, the superintendent here at Foothills School Division. Nice to see you all this morning.
Good morning, John Evans, Ward 2. I represent Heritage Heights, Blackie, and Kaylee.
Good morning, Sharon Nichols. I'm representing Ward 4 with Lisa Penzo, and we represent Okotoks.
Hi, I'm Phil Irwin. I represent Ward 5, which is High River, and the 4 schools that are within the town.
Good morning, Alan Davidson, Assistant Superintendent, Employee Services with Foothills School Division.
And that's all of us here. So I'm wondering if you might introduce yourselves as well, please.
Certainly. So Jamie, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Because I was jumping around my screen, so I wasn't sure who was in order next. So I'm Jamie Barton, first year counselor, Town of High River. Yeah, represent the town, I guess.
Councillor Walsh.
Good morning. My name is there we go. Good morning. My name is Brenda Walsh. This is also my first term with on council with the Town of High River. It's very early for me. I'm pleased to be here and look forward to getting to all know you a little better.
Councillor Nychuk.
Good morning, all. Councillor Nychuk. Yeah, good morning. Looking forward to having a discussion.
And Councillor Jones.
Good morning. Usually I'm sitting with some of you guys as a chairperson for the school, but this time I'm on the other side. I'm a counselor for the Town of High River. Nice to see all your faces again.
Excellent. And then do we want to, well, I guess I can introduce myself. I'm having technical difficulties, so bear with me. I'm trying to reload on another computer. So good morning. I'm Kelly Smith, Councillor Smith, first term. Super excited to be learning as much as we are. So that's very, very cool to be here. And apologies, this is me attempting to chair a first meeting with a little bit of impromptu-ness. So if it's not quite as it should be, I apologize in advance. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself as well, please?
Chris Prosser, CAO for the Town of High River. Nicole? Good morning, everyone. I'm Nicole Chappelle and Director of Corporate Services for the Town of High River. Nice to meet everyone.
I guess I'm next. I'm Riley McCarricker, Town of High River Director of Municipal Services.
And I'm Khalid Mohammed, Manager of Planning and Development for the Town of High River.
Okay, has that got everybody?
We have one person we didn't introduce yet, and I'll ask Jennifer Sanford to turn on her camera and introduce herself. That'd be great.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jennifer Sanford. I'm the new Manager of Communications and Community Engagement. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. Well,
All right. Thank you for indulging me. And now I'll go back to the agenda, the first item. Typically, Foothills School Division loves to hear about the potential developments in our areas where we have the schools. So we were interested in hearing if there was anything up to update since the last time we met about the council's vision for growth. So we look forward to hearing to what you're going to share.
Okay. Well, this is not the day to have technical difficulties. I apologize. And so help me out here, Chris. What are we presenting, please?
Yeah, certainly. And Khalid, jump in if you want. Not much has changed since the last time we met. You know, Spitzy area is still in progress, and there's been a couple of applications come forward, but nothing significant at this point in time. And right now the focus being on Montrose and Hampton Hills, as well as infill development through the community. So nothing substantial since, I guess it would have been early 2020 that we would have met the last time, right? So so I don't think there's anything new. How about anything to add?
Nothing really, other than the town did annex around 284 acres of properties from two different areas. One in the northeast of the town end, which is the country residential properties along the Highway 2. And then we also annexed around 65 acres of property south of Montrose, which is called Red Tail Rise development. Those are new additions to the community, which indicates that it's kind of land growth and whatnot. And now we are in the process we're undertaking a major review to our town plan. That would definitely reflect the best land use for those areas and whatnot. And that could also be an opportunity for you to be part of the consultation process. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Yeah, it's not hard to imagine that through the COVID time since we last left, there hasn't been much change in terms of growth and projections, but it's exciting to hear about those new annexations for sure. And we look forward to the expanding of the town of High River for sure. Any questions from anyone here? No? All right, then we're happy to move on to the next agenda item if it pleases you.
All righty. So the next agenda item is the emergency response planning and communications from Foothills School Division, please.
Yes, and I'll ask our superintendent, Mr. Fazezi, to speak to this point, please.
Thank you, and good morning once again. Just before the holidays, I believe it was, we had an RCMP directed incident in a different part of our territory, but also not in High River, in the town of Black Diamond, and recognized at that point in time that we ask our schools to do lockdown drills and fire drills and coordinate that kind of work locally, and perhaps we should be doing that at the school division level with our community partners. And I guess our request would be, would you be open to and interested in partnering with us in that work, and perhaps yearly going through a staged crisis and ensuring that we, along with the RCMP, perhaps all know what we're communicating about who's responsible for what, and how we react effectively and efficiently in hopefully a never to be real crisis. But we believe it would be good for us to engage with our partners in that work. So that's our request to you.
Thank you very much. Council, would you like to discuss? Any questions? Councillor Walsh?
Good morning. Once again, is there a current program in place that you would like to extend on? Where are you within this policy within the school division? And how is it that you feel the town would complement that?
Just checking that I can respond because I see there's another hand up. We do have a newly updated and fulsome crisis intervention plan. Having said that, we also recognize that it's not necessarily state of the art because we are committed to continuous improvement. You won't see that plan anywhere because wiser practice tells us publishing that plan gives anyone with nefarious ideas insight into how we would respond. But it is accessible to all our schools and our school leadership teams and leadership team in general across the school division. So yes, we do have a starting point. And as I say, we can definitely become better with that work. What we would like to do is, you know, if there is interest, we've talked with the other towns and counties about this as well, as bring a group together and create a scenario that we would I guess then thereby understand more fully what each of our roles is in communicating, but also in responding. You know, one of the things we learned in that, I'll call it a mini crisis that took place in the town of Black Diamond, is that people aren't necessarily happy that we don't have the information that the RCMP has. We don't want to assume that role, nor go down and change lanes into that type of work. But ironing that out ahead of time to ensure that we're all staying in our lanes and complementing one another's work, I think is the intent of what we're asking here. So short answer, yes, we have a plan. We can work from that plan, but also recognize that it probably needs to evolve and change to be able to complement the work that the town is doing.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nychuk?
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Yeah, to not go ahead and reinvent the wheel, and I'm going to defer to Chris here at some point, but we have an emergency response committee that's headed up by our chief in town. And there's definitely some way we can collaborate here to ensure the safety of our communities and those around us. So Chris, is that something that we can have chief talk to the school division about, and we can start some initial conversations on how we might be able to tie them into that, because our municipal emergency committee is also tied in provincially. So I think that's probably the best direction to go, unless Chris tells me I'm going down the wrong path. So.
No, you're going down the right path, Councillor Nychuk. So that would be the first step, is to link with our fire chief, Cody Zebedee, and who looks after the RCMP services as well as our protective services division. And that would be the appropriate way.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Chipman?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. We participated in one of your emergency planning exercises a couple of years ago, and we appreciated being involved in that. And really, this is kind of just building on that perspective from a school. If there's any school instances that may happen, to make sure that you're aware of our responses and we can get on the same page. So we appreciate being involved in your planning in the past, and are looking for your involvement in our planning.
So if I could ask if the school district could send me directly the key contact for that, and I can relay that on to the fire chief.
Okay. Does everybody have everybody's contact information to be able to do so?
We do, yeah, and we'll definitely forward that information to you, Chris.
Okay. Any further discussion? No? Teresa's looking around. All right. Then on to our next agenda item, which is the status of proposed joint use agreement, Town of High River. So who from the town is our person?
That would be Khalid. He's been working on that with the school districts, both school districts for some time. So Khalid.
No, thank you. Yes, so I think last year at our last meeting, and after the meeting, I did follow up with the both school divisions and regarding the proposed joint use agreement. And I provided background and also attached the draft agreement along with all related documents, and requested that both school divisions would be great if they could review the draft agreements and provide comments so we could move forward and finalize. This agreement is being in draft version since 2018. And so I haven't received comments from both school divisions. And then I followed again last October regarding the same agreements, and I haven't received to date any updates. So we're wondering what would be your position moving forward. Would you like to move forward at this point, or it's not on your priority list?
Yeah, thanks, Khalid. Thanks, Khalid. That's through my department. We've had a couple of changes in our Director of Facility Services, so it isn't as high on our priority list as it should be, but it is something that we're wanting to get moving on. I did take a look at that just the other day and want to get back to you as soon as we can. So we do appreciate the draft. There's a couple of things we want to look at on that draft and get some feedback from some of our principals here in town, but it won't be very long before we have that back to you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? No? Going once? Okay. Next item up is the budget and ideas that make sense public consultation. Foothills School Division, please.
Thank you, Kelly. It's so much fun doing the hybrid in-person / Zoom / it's just, we're both looking, right? You're doing a great job. It's fantastic. I will ask our superintendent to begin speaking to this and then call on anyone else who'd like to add in to give more context if necessary.
Thank you. The larger context here is we're going into our budget planning and deliberations shortly. Our first actual discussion is this morning following this meeting along with our board. And we are projecting about a $3.5 million deficit. Some of the context around that's important to understand is the funding model through Alberta Education changed in the winter of 2020. Just before the pandemic started, one of the last meetings I went to in Edmonton was to learn about the new assurance funding framework. And there's some significant changes in that we're not funded per pupil per year any longer. There's a weighted system where 20% is the prior year, 30% is this year, 50% is the following year. It is supposed to give us stable, predictable funding. I'm not editorializing here. It is stable and predictable, but it's predictable in that we have less funding overall. And so that has caused some challenge for us. I guess weave into that the costs associated to responding to the pandemic, which were unforeseen. 2 years ago, we did receive some federal provincial support. This current school year, there has been no such federal provincial support. And so we've been, at Alberta Education's request, bringing our reserves down to a 2.9 to 3.1% level. I'll let Drew give us the specifics on that because for some reason I can't remember that number, but it's in that range. And that's where we're at right now. And so we have no reserves to tap into any longer. The other piece, which I'm sure you're experiencing, is property insurance costs, which have grown between 400% and 500%. And so we're spending $1.5 to $2.5 million of operational dollars because we have to have insurance. but that's money that could be in our classrooms, could be teacher assignments, could be education assistants that we have to spend on insurance. All that context brings us back to $3.5 million projected deficit for next year. That roughs out to 85% human resources, because that's what our budget is composed of in terms of expenditures, which is, 30 teachers per se. We don't want to go down that road of having 30 less teachers across the school division. Our community in our budget consultations since my arrival here has given us a clear message that they also share that priority of teachers and teacher leaders and education assistants being prioritized in budget decisions. And so we decided to open up a public engagement called Ideas That Make Sense, so that our staff team, but also our parent community and yourself by extension as a partner, but almost equally as importantly, how we can generate revenue. It's a bit of a sad statement that we are looking at revenue generating ideas as a publicly funded school division. Having said that, I think if we did not, we would be remiss in our responsibilities towards our students and our families. So this is the reason behind Ideas That Make Sense. And Drew has been leading that work. So I would invite him, we did go through a bit of an overview yesterday at an executive team meeting, but I invite him to speak maybe to a little bit more specifics around what that has looked like so far. It opened about a month ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Thanks, Chris. So we've received a number of feedback on the Ideas That Make Sense. We also sent a survey out to parents and staff that we've received quite a few responses back on as well. Certainly, that information will help inform us to move forward. There are some things in there that we haven't spent a lot of time thinking about, at least recently. So it's good to have those reminders. As you would expect, we anticipated most of the feedback that comes back is something that we've already spent some time thinking about, but it's good to get that feedback and that perspective back from parents and staff in the community. So we will be meeting as a board, going through those recommendations, and we'll be coming up with areas that make sense, excuse the pun, that we can kind of get back on track. And Chris was right, it's 3.1% that the province has said that's the amount of reserves that we should have for a rainy day. We've had a little bit greater than that, which has enabled us to add money into our budget. So now that we can no longer subsidize operations with reserves, that's exacerbated the situation for us tremendously. So we're lucky enough to have had that ability in the past, but unfortunately moving forward, that's not there. So it will certainly seem like a cut when you have to take things out of the system to get back to a balanced budget. So hopefully there'll be some opportunities there for us, and we'll be able to learn some things, be able to make some of those changes, and we'll certainly communicate those out. We'll be clear as to what that looks like and the feedback we did receive.
If I can just add one piece before we take any questions, if there are any, it's just that this consultation will remain open. This is something that's ongoing, and if ideas strike you in the middle of summer of how the school division can generate enormous revenue, then we want to hear it, right? So it will stay open for as long as it needs to, and we really hope that people will take some time and give some input into the consultation.
I have a question. I'm kind of curious. Did you say a 400 to 500% increase on your insurance?
I'll take that one. Yes, and the property and our total insurance costs, it went from about between $500,000 and $600,000 to $2.5 million. Now we, as you know, we're one of 8 school divisions who suffered some catastrophic losses. The floods in 2013, forest fires in Fort McMurray. Those are some of the boards that really saw some of those big changes. We were with Alberta School Boards Insurance Exchange, and we hadn't done a lot of work to mitigate that or had some really very good rates. And when we went out to the marketplace, we found that those losses were causing those types of increases. So we've shopped around quite a lot. We're with a different consortium at this point, and we anticipate that as we get further along, that maybe some of those costs will come down. But until our 10 years is up, where those things fall off our books, you know, we do have that big of insurance increases.
Wow. And so when you say you're looking at fundraising initiatives, I appreciate it's early days, but you know, what does that look like?
Yeah, fundraising, you know, we're certainly not trying to fill the deficit with fundraising, because those things are, you know, you can't count on those, but we are looking at what we might be able to do to raise revenue, not necessarily strictly fundraising, but we are going to look at things like fees. Are there some other pieces that we can look at? Can we offer things differently? So those are some of the things that we're reviewing. It's not just necessarily going out and asking to raise funds, but we are putting together a foundation that hopefully will provide people an opportunity to support us through fundraising and through those pieces. But we're looking across a whole gamut of different opportunities. So we don't want to say, well, we're going to balance it on fundraising. Every year we're going to raise X number of dollars, because that's difficult to do, and you can't really budget that moving forward. So we're looking at more sustainable revenue generating pieces.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. In regards to this large deficit you're facing from, you know, to Drew and to Chris, I guess, how much are we seeing this across the province? You know, as a council, we follow the same, you know, budgetary constraints every year, but this is really a provincially funded issue. As a municipality, in the past, we've been able to raise a voice to concerns that are across Alberta, and I'll bring up the coal policy point that we just went through and had some success on. Considering your position, is this the same position of a lot of school divisions across the province? And could municipalities assist in the lobby with the government to make this a realization that there's a lack of funding for you guys to do your jobs for the education of our kids? So maybe you can give me some light on that.
Thanks, Michael. I'll just start, and then Teresa or Chris can jump in. So we've been adding dollars back from our reserves, because we've been told that we need to spend those down. So that's unique for us, because many boards haven't been in that position. So, and we're having to take those monies out because our reserves are become depleted. And as Chris mentioned, the new funding framework, we were net losers under that funding framework. So there were winners and losers from boards. We were a loser. So somebody would argue we've been getting more than our share over the last 20 years with the old funding framework. We wouldn't say that, but that's over $1 million. In fact, this year we received $1.6 million in bridge funding, and that's going to disappear. So when you take those things into consideration, it's not something that every board is in. We're pretty unique in this perspective. Insurance wise, that is by far the majority of boards in the division. And we've certainly shared that with MLAs, shared that with the minister, the finance minister as well. But we always welcome support from our municipal partners when we're talking to MLAs and we're talking to government.
Yeah, sorry. I would just add that you know, any support that you can provide through municipalities would be appreciated. One of the question marks, and we brought this up, we met with our local MLAs maybe, I think it was 2 weeks ago actually, just before our prior board meeting. brought the topic of insurance up, and one of the question marks that I've had just having come from a different jurisdiction is, why can school buildings not be self-insured via the government? Just take it off our plates entirely. There's a deductible process that gets costly, but we are funded for IMR and capital, and should there be some kind of major defect that presents itself in a school, and we plan accordingly, it would be this is Chris's humble opinion here, a much more effective way to support students across the province. There is some work going on, it appears, from what we heard in that meeting with our MLAs, which is encouraging. I would be remiss not to say or include in this conversation that Alberta Education last year and the year before did provide us with some additional funding, and it addresses your question in terms of how widespread is this. Insurance rates have gone up for all school divisions across the province. There are 8 boards or divisions, as Drew mentioned, that have been harder hit because of catastrophic losses in the last 10 years. So those 8 divisions received an additional bump in funding between $600,000 and $800,000. What that did, though, is just bring us to the level of every other school division in terms of incurring increased costs. So instead of 2.5, we paid 1.7, for example, which is equivalent in Alberta Education's mind to the increase in costs in every other school division. So it is a provincial problem. But, I guess my take on it is that we are victims of geography. And we are in a position where we have inequitable funding compared to the rest of the province because of geography. And I'm not sure that's any one of our faults. Yeah, that was Chris editorializing at the end there. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate the responses.
And if I could just add in, Michael, I thank you for your offer of support to advocate on behalf of the school division, and perhaps to better arm you, we will send you kind of what we've sent the MLAs, a sheet of the numbers and the stats and how that's impacting our division, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Then we can look at it as a council and put our voice forward if we deem that it's helpful to the situation, for sure. Thank you. The kids that you guys teach are the kids that live in our community. So we look after each other, so to speak. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Any further comments or questions? See none. All right. Next item up for discussion is the Spitzy School Playground. And
yes,
that is Foothills School Division.
It is, and it's kind of piggybacking on what you said, Michael, the kids in this community, and the community is doing so much to rally behind Spitzy Elementary in this playground project. And I'm going to invite Drew Chipman to speak to that, please.
Yeah, not a lot to add. I know the town has put some money into that. We wanted to let you know how much we appreciate that. School community certainly keen on moving that forward, and they're getting a lot closer to that happening. Bill Holmes, vice principal of that school, has been taking that lead. I'm sure many of you are probably aware of what that's been looking like. So lots of work's happening there, and certainly appreciate all the support that we've received.
Thank you very much. Anybody have anything to add? Councillor Nychuk?
Nothing to add, just a question on how close to realization of completion. I know it was a couple of phases, but completion of the entire project. How is that fundraising going, and where might we see you guys doing a ribbon cutting for an entirely new playground there? Thank you.
Yeah, I should have that information, but I don't, Michael. But I'll get that finalized, and I'll send that over to you, so you know when that looks like that'll be happening. Yeah.
Thanks much.
I'm Phil Irwin. Just actually was in a school council meeting last week. I believe the number that they are looking for is about $53,000 to complete the project outright, but part of that is waiting for word on a grant that they applied for, and they're crossing their fingers that they'll get. Otherwise, it's over 100,000 still, but they're very optimistic, and they're looking forward to having that done as soon as possible.
That's very exciting. Fingers crossed, hey?
Can I add something else? Sorry. Joe Clark is in the process of raising money. In fact, they've got a little healthy competition between Spitz. I'll say healthy. It's pretty competitive, but I'm not sure where we're at with that one. But they're both schools are trying to improve what they're offering kids, not just kids in their school, but kids that frequent the playground on a regular basis.
Fabulous. A little healthy competition doesn't hurt. Yeah, oh, very good. All right, any additional comments, questions, feedback? Okay, I don't see any. So I guess that brings us to our adjournment. May I have a motion from Councillor Nychuk, please, to close the meeting?
I'll give you that motion, Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much. So the annual meeting between the Town of High River and Foothills School Division on March 16th, 2022 is adjourned at 8:39 a.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Have
Appreciate
a great
it.
day.
Thank you.